Well, I learned to cook in the kitchen of the First Methodist Church, and it was good cookers, I'm telling you. I have no idea how many weddings. I did weddings in the sanctuary, and I did weddings out in the park. I'm not in the park, in the garden. Oh, goodness, yes, I taught. I tell you how I started teaching. Of course, I moved my letter from Ragland's First Methodist Church. Always been a Methodist. And my mother and daddy were very active in the Methodist Church in Florence. I mean, in Ragland. And but anyway, I didn't know anything else but the Methodist Church. But I had already done a little bit of searching, and I noticed there was a church, a Methodist church, over beyond Jack's, Northwood. And I thought, well, that's the closest church to me. So I'll take the children there. So I had planned to go to that church, but we had a minister named Robert Archibald. Well, he was such a wonderful man, and he found out through a neighbor that lived here already in Florence that we knew before we came here, that we had been active always in the Methodist Church. So he came over here, and well, I had no choice. I mean, you're coming to our church. And he did, and my daddy lived with us for 10 years. Bless his heart, he was a wonderful man. And he was here, and Dr. Archibald would fly when he drove. He just, woo, you could hear him coming down the street. And then he'd swing in, and and he would come and visit with Daddy, but he always went through the kitchen. And he said, Genny, is there coffee made? And I said, sure, there's coffee made, it is. So we had a good time with him, and he was so nice to Daddy and made Daddy feel comfortable too. And my husband and my children, in fact, when Jenna was born, Daddy had left to go down to Ragland because he had a good friend that was running for re-election. And he said, Genny, I just got to go down and support him. And I said, well, go on, because, a baby can come anytime, the first one. And so he went on, and by George, I got in labor right as soon as he left. And so anyway, Dr. Archibald and his wife sat with me when I was having my baby. And that kind of endeared me to the First Methodist Church. Jenna went to her first class, and it was in the basement. And it was in the room that before you turn the corner, the steps come down. And we had a terrible time bringing those children down those steps. But those outside steps, those little steps, they came down, and then they turned left and went in the first room to the left, and that was the first class that they went into. Jenna was very outgoing and just loved everything and everybody, but Renner had a hard transition going from the basement up to second floor to a third grade class. And so I went with him, and when I got ready to leave, he was just hanging on to me. Don't leave me up here, don't leave me up here. So I stayed, and so I tried to stay in the background because I didn't want to be, conscious of what he was just saying. And so they took me in and said, well, why don't you help us? And I said, well, if I can, I will. And so we had a good third grade class, and they were sweet kids, and I see them still in the church. But I wish I could do more. But I have done so many. I was in charge of the Lenten studies, and I did I got homes that were lovely homes, and they all were pleased that we were asking them to have the Linton studies now. I mean, I did this for several years. I never kept count of anything. Didn't have time. I wouldn't leave it if, regardless, it's been God's answer. It's God's house. I grew up knowing that our life was dependent on God, and I always turn over the next morning and I say, thank you, God, for keeping me throughout the night. And He's right there because my Bible is right there. And I do a strange thing about the Bible. I know it's not necessary, but it's beat up looking. And I had a beautiful Bible until this happened, but I've got to have my Bible with me, and it's in the bed with me. But I put a good, clean upper room underneath the Bible so I can slip it off where I'm sleeping. But I want to have something that will take care of the cover of my Bible, and it means a lot to me. And my helpers are good about it. They know to be careful now with the Bible, and they do. And it's my, I have no fear in the night. I am totally at peace with God.